There's nothing quite like The Legend of Zelda. From Ocarina of Time to Skyward Sword, yes, I like Skyward Sword. The 3D games in particular have been some of my favorite games since childhood. But what if you, like me, have beaten those games already? What are you supposed to do? Well, unfortunately for us, Nintendo doesn't seem to know how to make good Zelda games anymore. Ugh. So we'll have to turn to alternative avenues of entertainment. ROM hacks are what happens when a fan takes an existing game and makes it into something brand new. From changing the colors of characters to item randomizers to full-blown new games, fans are doing what Nintendo don't. And out of all of the 3D Zelda games, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, or jointly known as Zelda 64, have the most amount of ROM hacks, as well as the most substantial ones. There's actually a whole lot of full-length hacks out there, but most of them boil down to the same thing. Ocarina of Time, but new dungeons. I've played most of them, and they're all pretty much that. I don't really consider them worth your time. So if you're wanting something brand new, I have 2 hacks in particular to show to you. The first game we'll look at is called The Legend of Zelda: Sands of Time. Not to be confused with Prince of Persia, because that's a common mistake. Anyway, in this game, Ganondorf was actually able to steal the Triforce, use it to rule Hyrule with an iron fist, destroying it in the process, and then he dies of old age. You play as Link, a treasure hunter in this post-apocalyptic Hyrule, with your treasure hunter partner, Manny, the fairy, as you search for Ganondorf's long-lost treasures, the sacred medallions, or something or the other, I've already forgotten. Anyway, this is what sets this hack apart from all the others, is the post-apocalyptic setting. Everything's dirty and destroyed and ruined, there's pollution. I mean, you start in a literal shanty town, the Gorons live in a literal dump. Everything's nasty and gross and dirty. It's very different. When I first booted this game up, I was like, this is so cool. It's so different than what you're used to in a Zelda game. And it doesn't stop with just the world either. Almost all the items have been changed in some way to either look different or function differently to fit the theming of the hack. It's all very, very cool. Unfortunately, as for the plot of Sands of Time, pretty much what I already told you is all you're going to get. Maybe a little bit more fleshed out halfway through, but there's not much happening plot-wise. You can definitely tell the person who made this ROM hack much preferred creating the dungeons rather than fleshing out the story. I also did hear that he got burnt out making it, so that definitely tells you that he gave up on the story, which is unfortunate because it's a very cool and creative setting. As for the gameplay loop of Sands of Time, it doesn't really have one per se. It's a lot like Skyward Sword, where the dungeons don't really start and end at the dungeons. The whole world is full of puzzles and dungeon-like aspects. The paths you have to take to get to the dungeons are dungeons within themselves. So playing Sands of Time for longer periods of time can get somewhat exhausting. So if you do play it, I would recommend keeping it shorter periods. It's not all bad though, because the puzzles you will do in the dungeons are absolutely insane. Some of these I was like, I did not know this was possible. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but you're going to see some crazy stuff in this one. Sadly, there was one large, gaping hole of a problem with Sands of Time, and that has to be the soundtrack. Even just thinking about it right now is giving me a headache. There was not a single track that I can think of that was anything more than just bearable.
there are some truly horrid songs in this hack, and some were so bad I had to mute the TV just to keep playing.
But maybe that was just sticking with the post-apocalyptic setting. When the world was destroyed, so was everyone's musical talent. Overall, Sands of Time has a lot of character, but not much else to offer. Unique dungeons, puzzles, and world setting, but non-existent story and headache-inducing music. Ugh. Sands of Time can be played on either emulator or original hardware, which is how I played it. Be warned though, if you do play on the N64, there's going to be a lot of lag, but that's from the ROM hack, not the N64. Despite all my criticisms, I do still recommend you try out Sands of Time, if nothing more for how creative it is. Never did I think I would enjoy one of these ROM hacks as much, if not more, than some of the official Zelda games. Especially one that people online have labeled a roguelike. But The Legend of Zelda Ultimate Trial did just that. I can safely say that this ROM hack is the pinnacle of hacks up to this point. Despite its radically different gameplay loop, you'd be forgiven to think this was an actual official Zelda game. Let's get into it.
So what is the premise of Ultimate Trial? Well, after awakening all of the sages and on his way to defeat Ganondorf, Link and Navi inexplicably get lost in, who would have thunk it, the Lost Woods. Missing all of his gear save his sword and shield, and not even remembering how they got there, Link and Navi are wandering throughout the woods until they come across a mysterious stronghold, inhabited by a bunch of people, including the equally mysterious Sheba, who tells Link he cannot leave this place until he proves himself worthy by completing a bunch of trials. This is already an awesome and mysterious setup for what will be an amazing ROM hack. And although Ultimate Trial doesn't have that deep of a plot, it's pretty simple for what it is. It does have a lot of atmosphere. There are a bunch of characters that you'll meet throughout the stronghold, and that's one of the great things about the game. All of the characters are very memorable, and they make the whole place feel very alive. And as for the gameplay of Ultimate Trial, it is indeed very different. There are no puzzles. It's all about combat. The trials you are tasked with going on are gauntlets, almost exactly like the ones from the Cave of Ordeals from Twilight Princess. So picture the Cave of Ordeals, but an entire game built around that. Now, people will say this is what makes it a roguelike, because you're going on a gauntlet, and you die and you have to restart every time. But that's not true. Roguelikes are lazy, procedurally generated games that get you addicted to the gameplay loop of going on a run, and that's their excuse for not having a fleshed out game. I hate roguelikes. I also hate the label roguelike, and Souls-like for that matter. Pardon me if I'm wrong, but one of the prerequisites for something being a Souls-like is that it has a dodge roll. Didn't Ocarina of Time invent the dodge roll? So wouldn't that make Dark Souls a Zelda-like and every subsequent game a Zelda-like instead of a Souls-like? Something to think about. Anyway, aside from all of that, there's also a whole bunch more you can do in this game. There's side quests, you can talk to the cool characters like I mentioned, and there's a plethora of gears, weapons, and items to buy. You will have stuff to work towards and to save your rupees for the entirety of the hack. But by far my favorite thing about Ultimate Trial has to be the soundtrack. The complete opposite of Sands of Time. These songs could be snuck in to Ocarina of Time and you wouldn't even know. They're that good. They're so melancholy and just add so much to the atmosphere. My personal favorite is Hylia's Garden. The composers of this ROM hack did an excellent job.
I almost feel bad for describing what little I have about Ultimate Trial. It was that good. I don't want to give any spoilers. I genuinely can't think of any valid criticisms for this hack. I enjoyed my time with it all the way through. Ultimate Trial can be played on either emulator or, again, original hardware, which is how I played it. And this time, without any lag. Ultimate Trial deserves an immediate playthrough. So there you have it, the cream of the crop of Zelda 64 ROM hacks. That is until Indigo releases. I know I probably left out some Zelda 64 hacks that people really enjoyed, but these two in particular stand above the rest for how wholly unique they are. I hope you give them a try, and as always, thank you for watching.